All right, everybody. Welcome. Good to be here. Thank you for joining us. We'll go ahead and just hop right straight into it. So we're gonna have a talk today about the table. We hear so much about the table. Um, so I'm happy to have this discussion. It's not gonna be the same way that you see all the other discussions on the internet. I always do my thing different. I have a different focus on everything. So it's just how I go. So we get to talk about it the way I want to talk about it. So with that said and done, let's do it. So what do you bring to the table? It's one of those weird questions that get thrown around a lot. And a lot of folks, some people specifically address, well, I have this or this, here's my resume and blah, 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 yakety smackety, right? While as other folks, they were like, who is you asking me what I bring to the table? I am the one and only Chris Rusty. And how dare you not even know what I bring to it? I shouldn't even justify such a question, right? And then there's some folks that's like, I bring a lot to the table, and I bring I, it's hard for me to tell you what I bring, but I know I bring a lot. Going, I put everything I know in my relationships, and that's okay. We don't always have to be experts in being able to articulate things. Um, but however you want to answer that question is up to you. I really don't care whether you feel like you need to answer somebody's question about that or not. This is up to you. But however, I think it's good that we know what we bring to the table. We actually know what we bring to the table, and we are also able to appreciate what other folks bring to the table. And it's not just in forms of things like money and jobs and stuff like that. While that will be an aspect of the table, uh, that is not the entirety of what can possibly be on the table, right? And so I want to be able to help people to be able to visualize these things a little bit better and also be able to articulate it. So I've invented a table, so to speak, so that we can better formulate these different ideas. All right. So with that said, let me see. I think I said I would tag somebody in here in the comments real quick. Let me make sure I do that. Let's see, where's my video at? Here we go. So give me 1 minute and we're gonna get started up. Let's see. There we go. I'll do that. And then I'm gonna tag a link to a video. Don't try to watch it now, but I'll put it in the comments, but I'll reference it a little bit later on because it becomes important uh, to the topic of the discussion. So, all right, with that said and done, let's go ahead and hop right into it. And there we go. All right, and feel free to add anything. Put things in the comments if you need to talk about. But what I like to think about the table as the different disciplines or arts that we specialize in. All right, so different people specialize in different things. We put our focus in different areas. We're all not necessarily doing the same things here. And when I say that different people are specialized in different areas, we actually we touch all these bases of the table. And I break it down into four dimensions is the way I look at it. There's two different columns. There's the personal experience. That's like the human experience, right? This is the way that we experience our lives as human beings relating with one another. And I want to look at that from a physical standpoint and from a mental standpoint. Then in the next column, we have the global experience. All right. This is more not just, based on principles related to human beings themselves, but more general. All right. And people that specialize in physical and mental aspects of that as well. And when we look at all those bases, we can put it together here. And I'm not going to focus on sexual type stuff. There's folks out there that focus on that type of stuff and, and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to keep it simple to these types of things so that we can know what we bring to the table in that regard. All right. So with that said, today's job is to cover the first two. And so that's why you see just this first column here, which is the physical and the mental aspects of the personal experience. All right, so we'll start with the physical aspects first, which deals with sensation. When it comes to your personal experience, your sensations are what describe how you experience this world that we live in. And when it comes to those sensations, there are people who are actually have expertise in those sensations. All right, they actually they study those arts quite well. All right, when I say study it, I'm not saying they necessarily pull out a book and everything, but I'm saying that they put a lot of energy, effort, and attention into it every day of their lives. And so this is a place that, and of course we all feel sensations in our lives, but there's people that take it to another deeper level. And these deeper levels that I talk about, there are some people who focus on these areas, either whether it's by nature or by nurture, all right? Whether it's hereditary, your genes, or it's by you decided to focus on these things and worked hard on it and put so much time and attention in it, and you've had some experiences that have influenced you to where you've gotten to a level of expertise with those different things. It can be a combination of both. Most things in life are a combination of both. So with that said, let's talk about sensation. Let's start off with that group there. When it comes to sensations, all right, I can call these people I want to call them sensualists, I should say. That word may have a certain connotation, a certain way that might go sexual, but you don't have to take it that way. Just the simple fact that people that focus on the senses, all right, that have expertise in this. And particularly what the sensualist does is that they regulate their emotional state through managing their senses and environment. All right. They regulate their senses and environment. Well, Chris Rusty, what do you mean? I'm glad you asked. I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean. How do these sensualists regulate their senses, their sensations and environment? Well, they look at the it's probably best for us to talk about the five senses, the main key senses, I should say, that we know about, taste, smell, sight, touch, hearing. And that'll give us an idea of exactly how these people, focus in on these sensations. So starting with taste, all right. There are some people who have a lot stronger taste buds than some of the rest of us. They can tell they can taste some food and they can pick apart what ingredients are in there and what's not. They can tell they're a lot more sensitive to whether or not something's bad to eat or spoiled. Sometimes, some people can drink milk maybe a couple days past the due date and be like, it'll be all right. Whereas the other person's ready to throw up and they can't even touch it a day before the due date or something like that, right? That expiration date, I should say. Some people have a lot more sensitive taste buds than some of the rest of us, and some people put a lot of time, discipline into that art of their tasting. All right. And so when we talk about these chefs and cooks that specialize in these types of things, they just have they specialize in that art. They put a lot of time into that craft. It's something that's meaningful to them. And I think we've had ancestors in the past that might have had these specializations as well, in regards to, being able to tell whether or not something's poisonous or nutritious for folks to take. These folks would get the first dibs on it and put it on their tongue like, no, don't touch that. You don't want that. Or know if something's going to be good and nutritious for the group. And so it provided a lot of good benefits. And some of these different things we can, when I talk about the things that people bring to the table, you can think about the tradition and history of how some of these things might have passed down and had benefits that might have had different impact, may have been more appreciated during certain areas than others, but regardless of the fact, we still have these people here in the current times. And I'm trying to make sure that we understand how to appreciate them, not just, in the past history, but in the current times as well. All right. So you got folks who have that good, strong taste for that reason. Then we got folks that also have a good smell, right? And you don't have to necessarily have all of these things, right? You can have some of these, combination of these, but we all dabble and dib a little bit. But again, some folks feel that have taste at a higher levels. Like when they eating their food, they want to have the full experience. It's not just good enough to eat the food. Yeah, they want to. They're also taking in the other senses. They want to have a good smell. The smell food's got to smell good. They want to have the ambiance of the restaurant, so they have to have a good sight and see things that they need to see. And I'm gonna tell you what, I'm not as deep of a sensationalist myself, but I'm just very observant. I recognize people, and so I know what triggers folks in different ways. And so what certain people get lit up a certain way when that ambiance is right. They got all the factors coming together, even the sound, the music that they have going on, setting the right vibe in the atmosphere. All those things is like heaven for them. It takes them to a whole new level. Meanwhile, somebody else who may not be as much of a sensualist, all right, that doesn't dabble in the arts of sensation quite the same way, they might be in that same atmosphere environment. They're just like, I'm just hungry. I'm just trying to get some food in. You know what I'm saying? Hey, it's a solid meal by the chef, though. And it's just not that same level. Some people need to have their meal, turn their TV on and have the movie on, kick their feet up, have somebody rub their shoulders, turn a little hot, warm pack, put it on their back or whatever, They want to have the whole thing together. These are sensualists, all right? If this sounds like you, if I'm knocking on your door, you're probably a sensualist, all right? And sensation is one of the arts that you delve in. When I say somebody's a sensualist, I'm not saying you can't be any of the other categories, because again, all of us dabble in all these arts to various degrees or not, or another. But you may find that you dabble a little bit deeper into one art more than the rest of them, or maybe two, or maybe three of them, right? And so I'm only going to talk about two of these. And we'll keep going with the rest of them. So be patient with me. We're going to talk about the rest of it as we go out. So if there's anybody that says that's a sensualist out there, let me know in the comments. Speak out and say, yeah, that you're knocking on my door. That's me. I'm a sensualist. Yeah, sensation is my thing. All right. And for anybody that just joined the room, I'll just put that chart back up there so you guys can see how the breakdown is. We're focusing today on just these two dimensions, sensation and perception. And we'll go down and break out the rest. So we got taste, you got smell as well, right? Somebody has to light their incense, light candles. They willing to pay all this money for some of these candles. I'm like, $20 for a candle. And it's like, yes, $20 for a candle. And what? If it means that much to you, it has that type of impact, you're probably one of these sensualists, at least in this regard of smell, right? Fragrances and all that other stuff. And it's not just in the positive ways, it's also in the negative ways, right? If somebody passes wind in front of a senseless and that thing stink, and it's like, it's not just that everybody notices that a fart stink, all right? I just want to get that clearing on the table. Everybody's like, come on, man, that's nasty, that's gross. But for a sensualist, you mess around and fart in front of them, they gonna be like, they gonna start cussing at you, mother. Yeah, you were nasty. It takes them to a different level. They mad at you. It ain't just like, come on, man. Come on now. You got to air the room out and then you back good. No, it's like you just messed up the whole night. For real. Say my mood's going to be thrown off for the rest of the day. It hits them at a deep emotional level, a lot deeper than the average person. Again, these smells and sensations, you can pick them up from a mile away. People that smell this, if your house is on fire, they the first person that's able to detect that something's amiss, and they're gonna wake everybody up or wake somebody up and say, hey, go downstairs and check what's going on. I smell something that ain't right in the air. All right. If you're that senseless, go ahead and put a like on the post, say something in the comments, let me know that I'm speaking to you. When it comes to sight, I already mentioned the decor of a restaurant, right? Having things put together, the ambiance, right? They care about cosmetic fashions, enjoying the arts, being able to sit back on a back porch patio or look at a landscape or something like that. Those things mean the world to these types of people. It's just like they need that to be a part of their every day. Some people can go to the beach and just have a good time, but these people seeing that visual of the beach, it just sets them up to a whole new level and dimension that than just the regular person who's observing. I don't think there's sometimes people don't truly understand what it does for people's psych in that regard. So, but also I want to also mention one other aspect that kind of goes under the radar when it comes to sight is how clean and orderly your environment is. There's a lot of people who are sensualists who have to have their environment tidy, together, and straight and in order. And when it's messy, their anxiety peaks up. All right. a lot of times in a lot of these senses, in all these senses, a lot of times your anxiety can peak up if things aren't the right way. All right, it's almost like a flight or flight type thing that got hit up. You know, this just puts you on alert. You know, say you just don't feel okay with that environment being that certain way. Meanwhile, the person that's living with you can look at that same mess, that same triflingness here, there, whatever, walk right past it and have not have a single problem with it. All right. And this is how you know you are sensualist. You can't go to sleep at night knowing that that thing is there. It's like you see somebody else getting their best sleep, just snoring away and saying, I ain't worried about that. I'll deal with that. I'll clean that up tomorrow. I'm tired. And you wish you could probably go to sleep like that because it's gonna be bothering you. Can't have your full peace. All right, with that mess being right there, because you got to have your environment looking and put together a certain way. Otherwise, you don't feel at ease. And again, these are the type of people that need their environment being that way because all of a sudden, if something's out of place or something, let's say a snake were to, let's thinking thousands of years ago, this snake goes into your environment or something like that. These are people that want to be able to notice when something's out of whack so that they can pick up the threats and dangers and you can be able to you can also manage things a lot better when everything's in the orderly process way, right? And so what puts them at ease is because there's a level of threat or danger that might happen. These people actually make good secretaries a lot of times because they can get things in order. That exec might be smart and a visionary and put all his efforts into stuff he specializes in, but maybe he's not as orderly, and so he or she relies on that secretary to be able to get that thing together, right? So a lot of times their anxiety might be triggered around these people that don't have their environments quite the way they need to be, and they have to get it tight together, otherwise they know. And sometimes these folks can judge other folks because it's like, man, y'all trifling because I click. I keep my place clean. You know what I'm saying? How come y'all don't keep it? Well, they're not wired the same way as you are. They can get it to a certain threshold just to make sure that, there ain't no bugs coming in. You ain't getting roaches and all that other stuff. It's not trifling to that level. They can, keep up themselves to a certain extent, but it gets to a point where the amount of labor you put into cleaning starts having diminishing rewards for the rest of us who are not sensualists as much, right? But for sensualists, those rewards don't diminish because they still have that anxiety that gets released and that peace of mind that comes on the back end of having that thing put together good. And once they get their house all together, their whole space cleaned up, I mean, a lot of times they want to get those smells and fragrances going. They trying to enjoy that whole thing. This is a moment here. And so it produces extra benefits to you to have your environment put together that right way. And understanding that you're essential, this allows you to be able to understand how to share space with other folks a lot better, and actually understanding that you are with essentialists, you're not essentialists, and this is actually something that's going on with them that it actually bothers them. It actually they can't even have peace. There's something that agitates them a certain way that you might be perfectly fine with. If you have some empathy towards that, you can learn how to share space with folks. Maybe even have your own separate space on the side that allows you to be able to, be a little bit more free and not have to do your thing, but allow them also to have their separate space that's a little bit more tight and clean. Again, if I'm speaking to you, like the video, maybe even share the video, right? And write something in the comments. Share what share your thoughts, your experiences, and different things like that. All right. So we talked about the taste, we talked about smell, we talked about sight. Next, we're going to talk about touch. All right. So when it comes to sensation, touch is also an important thing. And you ever have people that are, that are skin sensitive to certain fabrics and different things like that? That maybe they don't even like wearing pants because of the, jeans, that way it rubs against their legs. It just agitates them like crazy to a certain level. They're just highly sensitive to certain things. When they go to bed, they have to have a certain thread count sheets. Otherwise, they can't even sleep in the covers. They're like the princess and the pea. You put a pea at the bottom underneath 1,000 mattresses, they're going to feel that one pea and be like, I can't sleep. All right. These are the touch folks. They're sensitive to the things that they feel, and it goes to a different level. And they like their massages. They like to make sure their body's feeling good, whether it has to do with getting yoga with massages, whatever, and so on and so forth. So that's the touch domain. And not to take too much time, I'm gonna go ahead and go forward to the next one and talk about the sound. I talked about it a little bit with the restaurant, right? Because a lot of people like to culminate all these different things together, have their food and smells and sights and touches all happening at once, and it's like, ah. and make it brings it to an amplified new level. And again, this is something that you enjoy a whole lot more that than maybe the person that you might be in a relationship with or sharing the space with, right? Some of your family members, whoever it is, right? Some of your friends. You might be a more of a essentialist than they are. So understand that what you experience from your perspective is not necessarily the same thing that everybody else's experiences. All right, those sensations aren't having the same impact. So again, we have hearing. You got some folks, the music, boy, they always keep some earbuds in their ears. They got that set of vibe, that atmosphere that's going on, those different sounds. All right, you know, whatever that noise has to be. Sometimes it's the atmospheric and natural sounds. They might have that going and playing in their background, or just like to simply go to the places, parts, those environments that are going to allow them to be able to hear that. And that puts them at a sense of peace, a sense of at ease, and it puts them in a new space. All right. So a lot of folks are sensitive to sound in a lot of different ways because it's not just atmospheric sounds and music, but also even voices, right? Some people are a lot more sensitive to tones and voices. So if you happen to raise your tone on accident when you're talking to these folks, just because you got excited and carried away a little bit, but you didn't necessarily mean nothing different, those folks are going to pick up with it and they might take it a certain way, right? It's going to have an impact on them. Or if you lower it too low, you know, they're the different tones and different things like that are going to characterize, you know, it's going to have an impact with those types of folks. All right. So with that said, these are your sensualists, right? Sensation means the world to these folks, and this is the personal experience. So you understand these things about yourself and what you bring to the table because, well, first of all, this is just understanding yourself and what impact it has. Now, what value does this person actually bring to the table? I'm glad you guys asked this question. Um, Number one, a sensualist knows how to live in the moment. I'm not going to number them all up. I'm just going to start saying them, but they know how to live in the moment. Because they're connected physically to their environment, they are sensing things to a higher tune, a higher frequency, than on average the regular person out there. Right? They're living. They know how they're connected to the moment, and they're living in the in the present tense, not somewhere else out in space. They know how to live right here, right now. So they enjoy the moment. They maximize their experiences. All right. Something I already hinted on earlier, which is that they're sensitive to the environmental threats and opportunities that might be around there. So because they're so connected to their space and how it is and how it's oriented and whether it's orderly and how it smells, tastes, all this other stuff, they're gonna know when that environment changes a little bit. If something's off about it, you know what I'm saying? It's like if something's about to go down, they the first person to be like, yo, we need to get out of here. Something ain't right about this place. All right. There's value that these people add to the table that's almost invaluable. All right, that's gonna go oblivious over the heads of a whole lot of other folks who quite aren't quite tuned the same way they are. All right, but also they end up being experts in pleasure. All right, because they know how to set the right music, the right sounds, the right taste, have the right food. They know how to set the whole environment to make things right, and so they become experts in knowing how to be in a pleased moment, to reduce stress and different things like that. They know how to do those type of things, and a lot of times people can have jobs in areas that do that for other folks, right? If you have somebody that's, for example, runs a cleaning company, right? That person probably is a sensualist themselves, so they know how to get that environment just as spick and span to please another sensualist because they know how hardcore they have to go for themselves. They're gonna be able to do that for somebody else. Meanwhile, somebody else who's not a sensualist, they're gonna get it. Like I said, there's a diminishing rewards part, you know, when it comes to that work. So at some point, that work tires you out, and you're just like, all right, I've been working for a while. I'm done, and man. It's worth more. It's more stress cleaning than it is worth the benefits of seeing it clean for the average person out there on the street that's not a sensualist. All right, so there's some diminishing rewards there. Whereas for the person that's a sensualist, as it gets clean, they actually start feeling better. So there's actually momentum that can happen there. And so a sensualist often knows how to get the home clean the way they want to. They often end up being the person that's in charge of cleaning the home because they are in tune and frequency. They know how they want it. When other folks start cleaning it, they start looking behind them and saying, you missed this spot and you did this wrong, you did that, you know, and telling them that, you know, all the places they fell short in their cleaning job. And all of a sudden, the person that's not essential is gonna be like, look, doggone it, I put a lot of work and effort into there. If you gonna come behind and just complain about what I did wrong and ain't gonna say nothing good about what I did do, they gonna get turned off, and you know, because they don't have the same reward structure. The only reward structure they're getting at the end of the day of that process is really just hoping that you're gonna be satisfied that you put the effort into it and sacrifice into doing that cleaning on your behalf to get it to where you have the peace. Because you know, to get it to where they have peace, they can do that. But to your level of peace, it's going to take a little bit extra. And so they want to see that you appreciate it. And so, you know, understanding these things about people's natures can help bring down conflicts if you can understand how that works out. So there's a lot of positives that come with that. Let's talk about some negatives, because in all these different, I don't know, types of people or people that specialize in these various different arts, and again, we all specialize in all of them at different degrees. Um, you know, there's pros and cons that can happen in each one. It depends on how you go about it, right? You know, how you use it, how connected to your ethics and morals you go about these things. Because like the same way these people can be experts in pleasure, they can also be experts in pain. All right, inflicting pain on other folks and making it hurt to the largest extent possible. Um, Also, there's a high external locus of control that tends to happen for a lot of sensualists. All right, so if you delve deeply in these matters and you need your environment to be kind of set perfectly a certain way, then that puts a lot of control in your emotional state, your contentment into the external forces outside of your control. And so, of course, we can't always control everything about our environment, right? And so, therefore, that kind of leaves you subject to the whims of of your environment in a lot of different ways. Um, so there's that aspect of things, and then so yeah, and then also it can lead to some controlling behaviors as well too, because uh if you need to have your environment in under control, you're always trying to control a lot of stuff in order to make yourself feel good. You don't have full control over those things, and so just knowing what things that you do have control of and what things you don't, as well as often we need to elicit the help of other folks in order to get our environment in certain ways too. And so you may even step out to start trying to control other folks and their behaviors to contribute to getting the environment to the way that you want to do it. So you got to be careful with how you go about that and manage it in a constructive way. All right. So again, if you're hearing something that you like the post, say, put something in the comments. And let me see. I'm gonna take a peek over here at the comments and see what's going on before I go on and talk about the next one. If there's anything in here, let's see. Where's my? I need to refresh this page. There we go. There we go. We got yep, so me sensory right here. So I'm speaking your language. All right. That's what's up. All right. I knew we had some in the room. I knew we had some in the room. All right, so that's the sensualist. Now let's go to the mental side of things. So let me make sure I bring my table back up. Oh, it is already up, so I don't have to bring it up. But the next one is the for the mental aspects of things. If you're not talking about the physical aspect, how we pick things up through our senses, then pick up our environment, then let's move over to the mental. And the mental aspect of these things is that it's perception, right? Sensation versus perception. What you sense through your senses, and then how you perceive things. Two different things. But that's the mental aspect thing, how you perceive what's happening to you. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what that means. So from a perceptionist, as I call them, what they do is they regulate their emotional state through adapting or influencing perspectives. All right. So they're more focused not on tweaking the environment, but more the way that they look at things. All right. And the way that they look on things is that's what's gonna optimize their personal experience. All right. And so because we're in the personal experience column. So and again, usually what it means that it ultimately ends up meaning for the personal experience is that you're influencing your feelings and emotions. All right. So this whole column is really very highly based on feelings and emotions um, that you have, and trying to kind of, I don't know, create the right cocktail of feelings and emotions and experience so that you can have the life that you want to live and enjoy it the way you want to enjoy it, right? And you can do that by tweaking your sensations and perception. So perception is pretty straightforward. I don't think I have to spend as much time breaking it down as I did a sensualist, because I don't think as many there's a much many people out there in society that break down what a sensualist is. It's kind of more so, I don't know if it's me and nobody else really. It might be somebody else out there, but I just don't know of them. However, when it comes to perception, there's plenty of people that talk about that, right? It's kind of like you can look at the glass as half full or half empty, right? It's the same exact environment that we're talking about, but you want to look at it a different way. And sometimes you can look at it in ways that's going to give you a more positive perspective on things. In some ways, it's going to be more negative, right? And so you're regulating your state on based upon those things. One thing I want to be clear about what a perceptionist does is that they're really if you're delving into these arts of perception, you're not as really worried about what the truth is, or maybe you think you're worried about what the truth is, whether it's conscious or subconsciously. But what really ends up happening, whether it happens at a conscious or subconscious level, is that you're really just altering your perception. That means you're adapting the right beliefs, the right mindsets. You're when somebody says things that seem to be threatening or harmful or something that you don't like, you're going to flip it and probably think about it a different way. You're going to have a clap back for that. You're going to have, there's going to be something that you have that's going to protect you emotionally to a certain extent to be able to create the state that you want to have. And whether that ends up aligning with the truth or not, that's kind of irrelevant to this category. We'll talk about a more truthful category. We'll leave that for tomorrow. But for a perceptionist, this is really it's all about regulating your emotional space and how you feel about things. So and so they end up being good at influencing not just themselves but also other people. If you get good with perception, you have the power of also perceiving things yourself a certain way. You also become good at being able to convince other folks of how they should be able to perceive things. All right. And so perceptionists is often very skilled in linguistics or rhetoric, argumentation, right? They'll make a good lawyer, a good spokesperson for a political administration or a company or something like that. They make a good marketer. All right, so because they can give you the best perception and best argument for why you should have this product in your house. We have a lot of people with perceptionist skills, and actually society values perceptionists. When you date somebody, right? Let's say you're out here. Let's say you're single. You're out here in the dating market, and you're interested in hooking up with somebody, or not hooking up, sexually, but just finding somebody that you can be with as a partner or whatever. And the people that tend to get your attention a lot of times are the people who I don't know, maybe they are good with their words. Maybe they're smooth with the way that they say things, right? So they flirt very well, or they have good game, as they call it, right? So so a lot of people who are skilled with these types of things, we actually like those folks. We gravitate them when they do those types of things. Sometimes we might be wired, or we might have been, whether it's by nature or nurture, we tend to we start feeling certain vibes and chemistry and connection and things like that once those things start happening. And it's usually based on social things. All right. So it's so perceptionists are also usually good at picking up on social cues about the environment. So they pay attention to the type of swagger, the way you walk, the way you talk. They wink their eyes at the right time. They lick their lips the perfect right way. And it's just like, oh my gosh, that is so cute. And it just melts people. And they know how to do everything the right way. And it's so endearing. It's like, I want to be mad at you, but I can't, type of person. Even in those type of situations, that's when you're dealing with a perceptionist. It could be you, it could be somebody else, but as much as some people may fear them because there's the potential to be manipulative, when I get to talk about the pros and cons, that's going to be one of the cons that can happen, right? It can be manipulative if people use it the wrong way. But I want to also make sure I make it very clear that they have clear positives that a lot of us value, right? Let's take, for example, and the art of seduction. The art of seduction. Who does not want to be seduced by their partner? Whenever they get married or whatever. I'm not trying to get too deep in all people business and when they want to be seduced, but when the time comes, who does not want to be seduced? And that's just about everybody, right? I'm looking around. I see hands. I see everybody's hands up. All right. I don't see anybody. Wait a minute. No, I thought I saw somebody in the back. It was just a shadow. All right. So everybody wants to be seduced. A person that's good at seduction, they didn't come born out of the womb knowing those tips. They didn't know how to walk that certain way and wear those clothes, the right certain outfit, and make themselves look the certain way and do all the things, the social cues. People have to learn that over time, and people learn it different ways. Sometimes we learn it through our relationship with maybe the opposite sex parent. A lot of times you have mama's boys and daddy's girls. A lot of times they'll know how to do the right thing, snuggle up right to them the right way, and they can get whatever they want from them. Get have those parents wrapped around those fingers, and next thing you know, they realize that those same skills work later on in their life in their future relationships with their significant others. They don't have to necessarily nag them and complain about stuff. They just use these artful skills to inspire these folks to even to want to just empty their pockets out of them, right? And so it actually happens in a more positive way. There's I don't know any father that has a daddy's girl that's like, doggone, I hate the fact that she's a daddy girl and she emptied my pocket. When he's complaining about the fact that he's giving up money, it's like, but he wants to give up that money. It's a loving thing. It's actually a good way of having it happen. All right, because he knows how to say no. And same thing with the mother, right? When they have that mama's boy that meets and satisfies a whole lot of things in her life and everything, and that's my boy. He's just the cutest thing. Ain't nothing he could do to ever break her heart or whatever. And so she just loves on him extra deep because it seems like a safe place to love on him, relative to somebody else that might have broke her house somewhere else or whatever. Regardless of what the storyline is behind it, she loves the way she can love on her son that way. And he learns how to snuggle up and look at her and say things with the nice, cute voice and look at her with the right puppy dog eyes and all that other stuff. He learns skills. Those skills translate into other folks, right? So some people can learn it in a non-sexual way with their opposite sex parents growing up that way. Other folks can just learn it just by being observant. They're just naturally, or whether it's natural or they intentionally try to pay attention to it. It's more mental, but I think a lot of folks just do it more naturally, subconsciously. They're paying attention to the cues, the environment, the social cues, and what influences folks, what gets a reaction out of folks, whether it's a positive or negative reaction. And all of a sudden, think about like the child that throws a temper tantrum on the ground, right? The psychologist, any psychologist, they'll tell you that, a lot of times temper tantrums, they'll come from kids that are doing something because it works, right? It creates the attention that they want in order for them to get what they need, and they throw those tantrums, and usually we want to soothe them, right? A lot of babies, you want to soothe them. You hear that crying, and a lot of women, for example, when they cry, say, especially if you're a nursing mom, you might end up having, your area here start getting engorged and all this sort of stuff and feel a certain way, and there's tension and anxiety about that, and it's breastfeeding is how you release that tension, right? And so there's that connection that might happen naturally there in those regards, right? And so there's a certain natural sense that all babies are kind of get their needs met when they cry and complain early on, because usually if they're crying, maybe something is wrong, right? Maybe they're hungry, maybe they need their diaper changed and there's some poop or whatever in there, right? They don't know how to talk, and so this is the way it happens. But they learn through that experience that, hey, socially, I do this screaming and yelling, and I get mad. If I get loud enough, it's going to bother somebody enough, it's going to annoy somebody's ears enough that it's going to make them do something. And actually, when it comes to, I mean, there's the sexes and everything, and like I said, with the women and engorgement and everything, they have a certain type of response to babies like that draws them in. There's a lot of men that don't even have that response. They just hear a baby cry and be like, okay, baby crying. They can sit there and let it cry. It doesn't have that same like, oh, I have to, something's bothering me so much that I have to go deal with it. They're more likely to have that type of feeling if their significant other is the one that's doing the complaining about it. So they feel like they have to go ahead and deal with it in order to get her to stop complaining, basically. And so that's kind of the closer comparison that I notice more so in relationships. Uh, but yeah, and of course there's exceptions to every rule in that. But but those are things that they learn from their environment. It's not something that you're born doing. You pay attention to social cues, and so it happens early on. They're paying attention to social cues. They learn that, hey, if I do this, I get what I want. If I don't do this, I don't get what I want. And we all respond. Every psychologist tells you we all respond to punishments and rewards, right? Those different pleasures. So we pay attention to the things we need to do in order to get a reward. Even all animals in nature. We do our studies with rats and how you can get them to repeat certain behaviors and train them to do certain things if you give them a reward every time they do it, right? Dogs, any other animal in nature, humans work the same way. And so there's a lot of folks that pay attention to these social cues because they realize that, hey, socially we can get ahead this way. And because of that, I mean, there's certain folks that are on the spectrum that may not be pay very close attention to these social cues at all, and so there's like an underground world of things that are getting rewards, and people are making decisions on who they want to be close to and who they like and who they want to fall in love with and not. But a lot of folks don't verbally say it. A lot of these social things, when we say it's like, hey, describe the qualities somebody needs to have in order to be your ideal mate. A lot of times they're not describing the social cues, but the things that actually turn us on a lot of times that our biology kind of drives us to be sexually aroused by often are these social cues, and we actually love when people have those different cues. It's because when they don't have these social skills, they're not a perceptionist on this level. They can't influence us on these ways. Suddenly we're maybe we're going out on a date with them, and it was like, I just can't. They're a nice person. They got a lot of good stuff going on, but I just couldn't feel that connection. Couldn't feel the there was just no vibe there, man. It was just like, you're a good person, nothing wrong with them. It is what it is. I gotta feel the connection. And usually it's those people that are skilled at it. They've practiced it. Maybe they've gone on 5 million dates with 5 million people of other sex, and so they've become so skilled at it that they know how to you know get to that point for almost anybody that they date. But whereas somebody else that's not doesn't have as much experience getting out there, it's gonna be more hit or miss. All right, but more or less, I don't want to speak just on relationships and all that other stuff, um but the bottom line is these people, they are perceptionists. They work on their ways of managing the way they manage their language that they use. They evaluate the language. They create new arguments and rhetoric that are stronger. They gravitate things that are more effective, and ditch old arguments that are no longer effective, and so on and so forth. So sometimes they might seem like a chameleon certain times, because again, they're trying a lot of times they're adapting the way that they move according to what works to other folks. It's not so much about their own personal desires, and sometimes if they're trying to have an influence on other folks. However, again, they also are doing things for themselves as well too, because I mean, what a good thing. Let's say some of the positives that comes with being a perceptionist. So one thing about a perceptionist is, contrary to the sensualist, they tend to have a more internal locus control. So therefore, it's not so much what's happening to them. They can still have a positive mindset, a positive outlook, regardless of what's going on externally, right? And so that can be a good thing for them. And so they insulate their emotional state from their environment, but also they know how to influence, motivate, and inspire others to do things. A lot of times, there are some folks that will get with somebody, in a relationship, because being with that person just motivates them, rejuvenates, inspires them, puts energy to them, makes them feel alive. A perceptionist can be very good at that, and let's say if they got a tough, stressful job and everything, but it pays a good salary, hey, they might be very happy to come home to a perceptionist that can turn their what day around all of a sudden, and then give them energy so that they're pumped up, ready to go the next day to do that job. All right, so they're inspirational, right? Sometimes we have stuff that we need to do. We know we need to do it, but it's like, oh my gosh, I don't feel like doing it. A perceptionist is the type of person that can say the right words at the right time and inspire you and motivate you to do some things. Whereas somebody who might not be as skilled linguistically may not be able to get you to that point. I mean, they can tell you exactly what you need to know, but sometimes the cold facts of it all, so to speak, aren't good enough. You have to put it the right way. Sometimes saying it in a more poetic way, and creative way, can mean the world. Politics. That's all about perception, right? You know, we just had a debate, right? So that's the perception that you see on stage there and how well they can do things. Didn't matter what Joe Biden was doing in the office the last few days. What mattered is how he was perceived on the TV that day. And people are ready to, decide whether or not to, call it quits on him or whatever. So whether or not things are getting done or not, irrelevant. The perception is all that matters, and people vote based on the perception a lot of times. So, all right, and same thing with whatever whoever's in the race. So those are some of the positives that comes with perceptions. The negatives, as I mentioned earlier, a perceptionist can, they can be manipulative or deceptive to others, right, for their own interest. So if you don't have moralities and ethics behind it, of course you can, you can be a scam artist basically, and or snake oil salesman and lie to folks all day and all night, just to create whatever perception you want to. All right, for whatever benefit that you want to and get ahead. So we see those in politics, of course. We see that all over the place. So so there's that. Also, just changing your perception to be more positive things doesn't actually solve problems, right? You still have to solve problems sometimes. Some problems can be existential. Some problems can have a detrimental effect on your lives and the lives of others, right? And there might be things that need to have solutions or be addressed, right? And so change just because you have a positive attitude about it and uh, happen to be happy through the storm, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're, I don't know, getting a life vest when you're on a vote and making sure that you stay safe, right? Or doing making the right decisions and so on and so forth, and going about things the right way. So, yeah, so you got to make sure you appreciate other aspects of things that can be brought to the table that I'll talk about tomorrow, but also accuracy and accurate your accuracy, how accurate the things that you believe in or that you're saying are, as well as how much ethics that you take in those things. They can take a back seat sometimes to just results. A lot of times, perceptionist is just trying to receive a certain result, either make a certain result out of other folks. Uh, you know, Perceptionist, they might be the type of person that can influence people to give them money, build a deck for them, get flued out, whatever. They might be able to have people do things on their behalf that they don't have that they might not be able to do themselves, or just don't want to do themselves, right? Or maybe too tired to, or whatever their reason. So they can have a positive influence in regards to the things that they do in their life, but also um, you know, whether or not it's ethical or whether or not they're doing the right things, going about things the right way. If sometimes if you don't have the right ethics, that can take a backseat to whatever you need to have happen. And then also, finally, I'll just mention that sometimes perceptionists might sugarcoat all their own behavior, right? Because that also creates the type of emotional, has them feel good about themselves, basically. So they can sugarcoat all their own behavior, and maybe even all the people that share their identity group, their politics, or whatever demographic that they identify with or uh, have favor towards. They can sugarcoat the things that they say or have a lot of empathy and sympathy for that, but then also twist it to give the worst possible interpretation when the people are their opponents, or of somebody that they're not as sympathetic and warm and loving, and or a different ideology and so on and so forth. All right. So you have those different things that could possibly happen. Again, so the perceptionist, again, we're not talking about whether or not it matches with reality right now. It's just is we're just trying to alter the perspective, and they get really good in those arts. And a lot of us, we're emotionally influenced. We're turned on in a lot of different ways by the perception of things, and so we actually value people who have those skills. And if you don't have, if they're not people who are perceptionists that have those skills, that pay attention to those things, and deliver those products to us, then there's aspects of our lives that we have without, that we want to connect to. Right, so they bring a certain connection to our emotions that we actually want, and so they provide a value to society as well. So it's not all threats and manipulation for in a negative sense, right? All right, so I want to make sure that that's clear. All right, so with that said, those are the two categories that I want to discuss today: the physical and the mental. Let's see, let me check my comments real quick, see if anybody. Oh, yeah, I see a question there. The perception personality needs to be in control of their emotions. Is that right? So yeah, they actually both of these, if you are dealing with controlling emotions. So this is sensationalist and a perceptionist. Sensationalist, they're trying to put the environment in a certain way so that through their senses, it creates the right emotional state that they want. But the perceptionist is trying to change the viewpoints, the beliefs, and the arguments and the rhetoric that's used in order to create the emotional state that they want. So that whether it's their own personal beliefs that they have themselves or influence the beliefs of other folks, the perceptions of other people, so that they can do the things that they want them to do, that also creates that emotional state that they also want. So both of these are very highly emotionally driven on the side of emotions. And so that's why I broke it down this way in this first columns versus what we talk about tomorrow, which is not going to be as emotionally based. All right. Uh, it's important to draw those distinctions. So, but while we're talking about emotions, let me um, let me add a few things to the conversation about that. When it comes to emotions, and that's since these things are emotionally based, it's trying to make sure we're feeling the right way about and we're enjoying our life, right? And I mean, part of what life is all about is our emotions, right? If you felt zero emotions whatsoever, life would be kind of dull, right? It'd be like, what is, some people would wonder what would be the point of life without those emotions. So emotions give a meaning to a life. They have a lot of value, right? A lot of folks try to downplay emotions and undervalue, but they actually do provide value. And that's why I talk about what people bring to the table, because there's emotional value there. There are people who seek out folks that are highly connected to their emotions, and sensualists and perceptionists are usually highly connected to their emotions. Because there are some folks that are less connected to their emotions. When I say connected, or less tethered to their emotions, they are not consciously aware of the state of their emotions. They don't allow it to influence their daily thought. It's kind of sometimes they don't even know how they feel at times. All right, that's how distantly disconnected they are from their emotions. Uh, but a lot of these folks that are disconnected from their emotions, they prefer to be with the person that is connected to their emotions. A lot of times, right? A lot of times there's a yin and yang preference for people that complement them because, like I said, emotions are where life is all about, and so people get connected to folks that have emotions. People that aren't as connected to them actually get with folks that do are connected to their emotions in order to connect themselves back to their emotions. They for various reasons they've sacrificed the connection to their emotions one way or another. All right. And so, without going too much into what I'm talking about tomorrow, because like I said, this is a long conversation, and that's why I had to split it in half because there's a lot of meat to go into for this. But the more you connect it to your emotions, the more I hinted on this earlier, the more you're connected to the presence. The your emotions get you connected to the present tense. You're living in the moment when you're feeling those emotions right here and right now. When you're having the best emotional moment of your life, all that matters is what's going on right now. Whether it's winning an NBA championship as a basketball player, whether it's some major accomplishment, something that whatever it is that it is, when you're in love or feeling some extreme experiments because you pulled something out that's amazing, whatever, you're locked in that moment. And that not just the positive but also the negative. When I'm angry, I'm locked in that. All I care about is my anger at that time. If I'm angry, somebody comes up to me and say, hey man, calm down. No, I'm not gonna calm down. I'm mad. I feel like I'm just you just want to stay in that state that you're in right now. You're locked in. It locks you into the present, in the present moment, whenever when you're tapped into your emotions. And as we all know, your emotions can fluctuate, right? Over the same rain that made you upset one day can make you happy the next day, right? And so you can your emotions could be like a roller coaster. And so people who tap into their emotions are connected to their emotions very deeply, at trust in them, because and when I say trust in them, again, think about like essentialists, for example. They're trusting in their senses and the emotions that they bring about, because there are actually clues that they get from that emotion, their environment about that are connected to those emotions. So they have to be adept to those things. They're the type of people that are going to wake up in the middle of the night when they hear a little noise and be like, hey, let's go downstairs and investigate that thing. because they're connected to their emotional state, and they got to get to the bottom and figure out what's going on and make sure everything's good before they're able to move on peacefully, and their anxiety levels go back down. So whether it's something tastes wrong about it, but like, no, put that down, don't eat that, or smells bad, like, stay away from that. You don't want to mess with that. Let's go on over here. That's not good for you. These people are sensitive to the environment, and so they have to trust in the relation, and that keeps them connected to the present tense a lot. And they have to ride that roller coaster. They're connected to that roller coaster, and they have to ride it, the ups and downs, and it can be stressful, and all the good and bad that comes with it. They can't just take the good without the bad as well too. And that's why I said we have to focus on both the positives and the negatives that come with all these different different things. And same thing with the perceptionists. While perceptionists might be really good at keeping an emotional state and being evasive of the negative states at all time, they have they have to be careful. And I think this might be what Kim was referring to in the comments when it talks about that. Let's see, make sure I'm reading the right comment here. I think where did it go? I think I need to refresh the page. There we go. Give me a moment. There. Oh no, that didn't work the way I thought it would. There we go. All right. But I think that's what Kim was referring to, because you have to be aware of the limitations of what you can get from these things. So if you just stay 100% positive all the time, and you're trying to just keep your state negative, positive in that regard, and avoid anything negative, sometimes negative information, something that if you believed it, suddenly it would put you in a negative state. So you kind of might be automatically resistant to it. And shoot down things. You might not be open-minded as you could be, or think people are coming with hostile intentions when they just tell you the truth, or something like that. That's a danger that can happen from that too. That you're not open to some helpful information that might be true to you, and it might hurt. And initially, it might hurt, but in the long run, it might make you better. Sometimes we need that painful, nasty medicine. Medicine might be nasty, but we still need to swallow it, right? So that's that's something that kind of goes with that as well. So let's see. Using metaphors can be helpful in getting people to understand you, make it a story. Absolutely, absolutely. I got a lot of family members like this. They actually fake emotions when they want you to think that they are connecting with you, but it's all control on their part. They control themselves, and they control you. Absolutely. So a lot of people who enjoy their emotional tethers, right? Who are very emotionally connected, it gets amplified when you do it in communities, right? When you can share your emotions with other folks, it amplifies it to a new level. So just like when I said with the sensualist, where it's sometimes it's not good enough to just get your taste buds happy with a good meal. You want to turn the TV on and watch some stuff and hear some stuff, and have all your different senses going, because it takes it up to, it multiplies, it amplifies it to a new level. The same thing happens when you connect with other human beings and you share those emotions. Like you share stories, you talk about them. Like, man, homie, what happened the other day? Man, let me tell you what happened. Girlfriend, let me tell you. You start connecting, and when you share stories, it's not just about telling somebody information, because some people communicate just for the simple fact of telling information, and that's all they do. But really, when you're dialed into your emotions, a lot of times, um, you're talking to people to share an experience. You want that person to go on a ride with you. Let me start from the beginning. I gotta tell you the whole story. I can't just tell you the short one. And we're gonna be sitting here. You got a couple hours. What I'm saying, get comfortable, sit back, and enjoy this whole conversation. And so we're gonna go on this ride together. As I tell you the story, I'm gonna start refilling everything that I went through as if I'm going through it right now, and you gonna go on that ride with me as you go, and we might all both be sharing tears and all this other stuff. And so it's a deep level of connection that a lot of people have. And when a lot of people go into their personal intimate things like that and share so much, and when you feel this certain way, you also you have a feeling of trust as well at the same time. Anytime you start feeling really good emotions times other folks, you start feeling more trusting towards them as well. And you also start thinking that they are on the same wavelength as you, and they're feeling things the same thing as you do. There's some people that are just listening to you, like, yeah, girl, man, I hear you, or man, no, I feel exactly what you're saying. and they really ain't on that same emotional wavelength with you, but they're just nodding heads, going through the motions. You thinking that they there, and all of a sudden they do something that's inconsistent with somebody who really would have been on that. If they would have truly understood and rode that ride with you and emotionally sympathized with you and empathize, whatever words you want to use for that moment, they probably wouldn't have double crossed you that way or whatever. And then so it's kind of like, okay, I feel like I've been sabotaged. That's something that we had there wasn't true. All right. And sometimes it might have been true at that moment, but maybe they turned into a different person later. I can't speak on every individual situation, but that a lot of times that's what's going on there. And so you got to understand kind of how that whole story and narrative goes out. But so understanding that, it's these two personalities, they're very highly emotionally based. They relationships with other folks amplify those emotions. There's also moral principles that also come about, because if things are highly emotionally based, right, and a lot of times everybody wants to feel more positive feelings than negative feelings, right? So you want to maximize pleasure, minimize pain, so to speak. And so when it comes to morality, things like nurturing and care and preventing harm tends to be some of the highest principles of morality that these people value. All right. And so, and then when I talk about, so, and just this is kind of the preface to tomorrow's conversation, because their moral principles are not gonna be exactly the same thing. That not at least not the highest principles. We all share the same kind of principles. Nobody wants to harm and just do it for the sake of just harming folks, right? Or anything like that. We all want to have as much pleasure as possible in this life. Um, However, but that's not going to be the highest priority. All right. And so I'm going to explain that. And this is where I have to explain the table, because we all have good things that we provide to one another. I talked about how we'll see now when I talk about the next group and how it works out, that they actually prefer the people a lot of times that are connected to their emotions for a reason, because it helps them to get reconnected to their emotions, because they had to sacrifice their connection to it. And if they lose that connection to it, a lot of these folks, they don't know what reason it is to live. And they start spiraling out of control. You start seeing school shootings and all this other crazy nonsense. A lot of the craziness that you see going on in society is for folks that can't quite get these type of things balanced and right. All right. So I explained the table the way I do for a reason, because I have a vision, I have a goal, I have a mission that I'm going towards. And so just got to be patient. Let me draw the lines all out. There's a story that has to be going there. But there's a different change in values that's necessary in order to produce the things that the more emotionally based things of the personal experience column, what they value, right? They value some things. They tend to value things as well that they might suffer, not have as much of, whatever, out of the other folks. But there's other stuff that comes with it, and you got to appreciate the whole full picture of what everybody has to provide and what comes with the package. You can't just pick and choose a la carte. I want this value amplified that they bring to the table, but leave all the other stuff that tends to come with it behind. Well, you have to understand why that other stuff comes with it. Just like they have to understand why you get annoyed by a house not being all as messy as they look at it as like, it ain't that bad. It's not like we about to get roaches. There's just a few papers on the floor over there that needs to be picked up, man. I can just get it tomorrow. I'm tired right now. Whereas they don't quite understand that, hey, this is anxiety type thing. Everybody has to appreciate the full package that comes with everybody else, and what it takes to be. Because I saw somebody online yesterday. It was like, hey, there was a guy that said, I only want to be with a woman who likes to keep a tidy place, keeps her home clean, and keeps her nails clean, or her hair done, blah blah blah, all this stuff. So he was describing a sensualist in a lot of different ways without using the words, but also, for such a man to want a woman that has all those qualities, he's got to expect some other stuff that comes with it too, and he might not fully appreciate that. All right. And so I want to make sure that we all appreciate the full package of what comes with everybody, and that we also appreciate ourselves, because if there's certain things you don't recognize about yourself that's true to you, and you don't appreciate it, or you look down upon yourself, or you wish that you behave more like somebody else, that out of these four different personalities that I'm going through, maybe you wish you had some of the other qualities, but you're more dabbling in these or whatever. I want you to be able to be at peace with who you are, whether that's your natural self, or whether nurture, whatever the reason that might be, so that you can be the best person that you can be, that you can and have the best relationships with other folks and be able to value each other the way we need to value each other. All right. So those are the things that I want to say. Last thing I want to say is I want to talk about the sacred sacrifice. Sacred sacrifices. We all make sacrifices in these categories. And for these emotionally based ones of personal experience, they make the sacrifice of being able to hold on, ride that roller coaster that comes with the emotions. That's a sacrifice. You sacrifice your emotional state a lot of time. The perceptionists, they sacrifice maybe their access to what's truthful, right? By trying to, to the truth. And, we all know how knowing the truth can be valuable to our life experience as well, too, right? So there's a lot of things that we make sacrifices for, but those sacrifices allow us to be specialized in areas the way that we do in order to provide the value that draws folks in. And particularly with the perception is because, I don't want people to focus just on the negative, manipulative aspects that comes with that. Because, again, everybody delves in all these matters. All of us have been manipulative at one form or time in our lives or another. So we've all been perceptionists to a certain degree or another in positive and negative ways. But however, I want you to also see that the perception is sacrifices their identity, all right, in order to reflect back to you what you want. They don't even know who they are and their own identity at times in order to reflect back to you. That's a huge sacrifice. Being able to know who you are and at your core every day, that's an important, valuable thing. But they sacrifice that in order to become a chameleon to reflect back to you what you want. But you also have to appreciate that when somebody's reflecting back what you want to give you a certain feeling or experience or whatever that is that you fell for, and you might not like those aspects about it, realize that they're holding a mirror up to you as well too, because this is what you asked for. They're actually responding to what they're seeing people respond to in nature. So if they didn't recognize people actually responding to this, they wouldn't do this. They would do something totally different. So if they're doing behaviors as a perceptionist towards you and it's effective, then you also have to look at yourself. There's a potential for you to be able to get some insight about yourself and not take all the negative energy and point it towards that perceptionist, but also look at yourself internally and say, hey, maybe there's something I need to work on to where I want myself to respond differently. So maybe these social cues that I put so much weight and emphasis on that ends up being why I date these type of guys or these type of girls or whatever. Maybe I need to make sure that I reevaluate things and reconfigure things and respond differently so that whatever this perception this reflects back to me would be more directly something I would be proud of. All right. So with that said, I'll end on that point. All right. You guys have a good night. Thank you for listening. I hope you had some valuable. Share this video, like the post, and leave some comments. Let me know what you think. I'll reply back to you guys. Have a good one. Thank you for everything. Thank you, Kim, for the conversation in the comments. Always appreciate it. One love to everybody. You guys take care of yourselves and each other. All right. Until next time. Peace, love, happiness. Let your soul grow. And we out of here, y'all. We are out of here. All right. Let's see. Where's my yeah, let's get that music on. That's good. Come on now. Like the post, like the post. Come on, share the post. All right. If you can see some value in it, share the post and be out here tomorrow night. We're live 9 o'clock, same time. All right. It's going down. night, everybody. I'm out here. Take care of yourselves. Love.